What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and trade deadlines are here. So if you want to fix your team and fill your holes before the playoff push, now is the time to do so. So today, we're going to do a last call with my 7 must-buy trade targets for Week 11 of the fantasy football season. As I said, this is probably going to be our last one. Most trade deadlines seem like they are happening at the end of this week or at the end of next week. If your trade deadline is at the end of Week 11, you at least have today, Friday, you have tomorrow, Saturday, and you have Sunday morning to wheel and deal and get some of these deals done. As always, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. And the first player that I think is a must-buy is going to be Jaylen Warren. Now, how I come about this list of players is I see who is overperforming or underperforming their volume and who is higher or lower versus my rankings on the consensus boards. I do my rest of season rankings every week over on the Patreon. You can find them patreon.com/Ron Stewart in the description or the comment section down below. You get my weekly rankings, my rest of season rankings. You get my waiver wire article, all that good stuff and more. But with Jaylen Warren, people are kind of sleeping on him. He's probably like fairly rated, but if you do need to buy an RB2 for this stretch run, Jaylen Warren looks like a fine option, like just fine. But I do think that he could flirt with RB1 numbers down the stretch. He's been the RB16 over the last 4 weeks with 14.3 points per game. So he's been fine. Like he's been solid. He hasn't been a league winner. He hasn't been amazing. He's been fine. He's probably attainable on a team that has too many running backs, right? It's like Travion Henderson now surging for them, and Jaylen Warren is the odd man out. He's also a great start this week at home versus the Cincinnati Bengals, or is that game at home? Regardless, they play against Cincinnati Bengals, who are allowing the most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So it really doesn't matter if it's home or away. It is home, though. So at home versus the best matchup on the slate for running backs. And like I said, we're going to be very schedule-focused in this video. Shout out to Mike Clay over at ESPN. He put together a really cool chart of who had essentially what was your strength of schedule previously to this point, and then what is it moving forward. So the Steelers have had the 27th toughest schedule to this point. Now they have the 7th easiest rest of season. So it's actually been really tough sledding to this point, but from here on out, it's going to get a lot easier for the Steelers running backs, and he has been somebody who has played super well. You look at this chart on the bottom from Jake Tribby over at Fantasy Points, and you look at missed tackles forced per touch, yards after contact per touch. He is in his own world. Now, am I saying that Jaylen Warren is the best running back in football? No, but he's been playing very, very well. We're already getting reports that they want to get Jaylen Warren more touches, and I think that this is going to be maybe his breakout game versus the Bengals here. So I think he's going to sort of earn his way into more touches. He has Cincinnati this week where you can just kind of jumpstart your team if you're looking to really win these games to get into the playoff hunt. I think Jaylen Warren is a nice buy. Now, as always with these videos, we go over to fantasycalc.com and we see what these players are actually trading for. So we're going to go for Jaylen Warren, redraft, 1 QB leagues, 10 to 14 teams, 2 to 3 assets in the deal, half in full PPR, and these are going to be real trades from real fantasy football leagues. Let's see. What is he going for on the market? You can sell Ladd McConkey for Benson and Warren. No, thank you. If Tet's not getting in my lineup, I think Tet for Warren is about even. Judkins and Hubbard, no. What I do, I would do Olave for Warren if I needed running back help. I didn't have time to wait for Olave to come off of his bye week here. If I don't have time to wait for Bucky Irving, I would sell Bucky Irving for Jaylen Warren. Like, if you're in a spot, I mean, he's already ruled out this week. He could play as early as next week. Maybe, like, the fantasycalc.com is saying that you're losing this deal. I don't know. If you want to try and squeeze back a wide receiver, like, can you do Jaylen Warren for Bucky Irving and, like, a Jamison Williams or something in that range, a Jauan Jennings, something like that? If you want to add something on top, add something to Jaylen Warren if you're selling Bucky Irving, but I don't hate that idea either if you are kind of desperate for running back points. Now, our next trade candidate isn't anything crazy. This is a luxury buy. We're not going to spend too much time, but Bijan Robinson. All right, this is just one of 7 players. I know he's Bijan Robinson, but if there was ever a time for him to be attainable, right, there was a stretch, weeks 1 through 6, he was like almost the RB1 overall in points per game. He was unattainable. He was, okay, if we did the draft again today, Bijan would be the 101. Well, right now, he's on a bit of a slide, where since week 7, when we look at that 4-game stretch where Jaylen Warren's at 14.3 I think it was 14.6 points per game 14.3 points per game as the RB16. Bijan has actually scored less points than Jaylen Warren since week 7 at 14.1 points per game. He is the RB18 over his last 4 games. That is brutal for a guy that was taken inside the first round. I imagine the manager is now pretty frustrated. And again, I'm not saying he's going to be cheap per se, but he's now attainable. He's not, I'm not even going to listen to offers for this guy. He's untouchable. Like, don't even ask about Bijan. To where now it's like, I'll hear you out, right? And he did a very similar thing to this last year where Bijan started really slow. He was the RB24 from weeks 1 through 5. And then from week 6 on, he was the RB1 in 2024. Now, it's a little more of a bumpy ride this year where he started strong. This middle stretch has been bad, but I think down the stretch, we're going to lean back into Bijan Robinson. That 4-game stretch where he has been the RB18, the Falcons have lost all 4 of those games. I have to imagine that they are just going to sort of look at the drawing board or go back to the drawing board and say, hey, like maybe we should just give our best player the ball more instead of Tyler Algier or giving targets to guys like Casey Washington or whatever. Like just get back to basics. I really think that's what they're going to do. Let's see what their matchup this week isn't terrible either. They get Carolina at home in Atlanta. Has the Carolina defense been better this season? Yes, but at the same time, Bijan at home in a dome versus the Panthers. This could be a perfect, 2 touchdowns, 100+ all-purpose yards, get back on track game for Bijan. Now, what he is trading for on the open market, I am prepared to be like, maybe don't trade for Bijan. Let's see. Now, of course, I'm never going to entertain something like Rico Dowdle. Like, let's be serious here. I would add to McBride to get the Bijan. I think that this is a little lopsided. Like, Henderson's now balling, but I would do McBride and Henderson for him. I would trade Rashid Rice for Bijan. This one makes no sense. I mean, Genti Olave for Bijan pretty easily. So you can definitely, he's attainable, man. He's attainable. Of course, these aren't all super realistic. Ibuka and Javonte. I like Ibuka a lot, but I actually would do this. Ibuka and Javonte for Bijan in a start 8. So 2 flex, 2 wide receivers. If I felt good through my flex and like Ibuka wasn't a must start for me every week, which would be shocking, but if I just had like 2 flexes that I felt good about and my running back room was weak, I wouldn't hate that. Dowdle and Javonte I would do in a heartbeat. I would do Jefferson straight up for Bijan. I know that like you can just sort of take Knicks out of here. Derrick Henry and Pickens, yes. And I think these are kind of deals I would do where the guy who has Bijan, let's say he's lacking depth, he dealt with an injury, and you can give him Derrick Henry and then you can give him George Pickens as like, here's a strong receiver, he's a strong running back, but then you get a truly difference-making asset at the top of that deal. But it's funny I mention Derrick Henry because I don't even have him as a sell. I actually have Derrick Henry as a buy, which feels like for the 14th time this year, Derrick Henry is a buy for me. I know that's probably frustrating by now where if you listen to my advice, you bought Derrick Henry. He still hasn't fully, I don't know if you want to call it a breakout for a 31-year-old running back, but he still hasn't crossed 20+ PPR points since week 1. But I think you got to go back to the well on Derrick Henry. I know that sounds crazy, but I do think that the Ravens are going to get rolling here with Lamar Jackson. They got to win games to get this division back. And they have been feeding Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is averaging over 20 rush attempts per game over his last 4 games. And this is actually the first time I can remember. Now, if you want to say that this is actually a warning sign, and this is the sign that, McQueen's fading, that Derrick Henry might be washed, you certainly can do that. Because this is the first time that I've ever seen Derrick Henry underperform his volume. Now, he's definitely underperformed his volume in a small sample, but when I say this, what I mean is based on his carries, his red zone touches, his goal line carries, he should have X amount of points, and basically over his entire career, he has exceeded that number every time. Now, like I'm doing here, you can definitely pinpoint 4-game samples where he didn't, and that's what we're looking at right now. Where over his last 4 games, he is the RB6 in expected points per game. So again, based on his volume, but he's only at 14.4 points per game, underperforming that by 2.2 points per game. Again, in a good offense, attached to Lamar Jackson, being Derrick Henry. We've never seen him over an entire sample be that bad. Now, could he be washed up and this is the new Derrick Henry? Maybe. 1, I would be shocked. And 2, he still has 3 really good matchups between now and the fantasy playoff finale where he could single-handedly win you a week. He has the Bengals twice. So he has the Bengals week 13, he has the Bengals week 15, and he has the Jets week 11. So that is the Bengals twice, who are allowing the most fantasy points to opposing running backs, and the Jets once, who are allowing the 7th most fantasy points to opposing running backs, as we saw with Trevion Henderson last night. Now, what you can send for Derrick Henry, he has to be pretty cheap within reason. I can't imagine that he's holding all that weight. I'm still holding strong that he's a top 12 running back rest of season. Rashee Rice for Ladd and Derrick Henry, I would. I really like Rashee Rice, but if I needed more depth, I would. I will say this is tough in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. I'd have to be pretty down bad depth-wise to make this deal, but on paper it makes sense. Pickens for Derrick Henry, very easy for me. I mean, what are we talking about with some of these? I would send Lamar. If I don't know, like if I had Lamar Jackson and Drake May or something like that, where I drafted a backup for Lamar, or when Lamar was hurt, I don't know, I got all kinds of stuff going on right now. But if I had, if you drafted Lamar and then he gets banged up and you had a backup, I don't hate selling Lamar for Derrick Henry. What else can you do here? CeeDee Lamb for Brian? No, sir. Kyron for Derrick Henry. I prefer Derrick Henry to Kyron rest of the season, but it's really even. I'd want a better piece than Bill. I'd want like a wide receiver here. Pickens again for Derrick Henry. I have no problem with that. Pittman for Derrick Henry, and these are kind of getting wild here. This is close, but I do Woody Marks and Pickens in a star 8. Only if I felt good about my flex depth, but I think on paper that makes sense. Now, let's move on to my 4th trade target. Another familiar face, and it's not only just Justin Jefferson, it's going to be all of the Vikings. Like, if you want to buy, I actually love Aaron Jones as well, who I'll add in here, where Aaron Jones has now been the lead back over the last couple of games, where this past week he had a 71% snap share, even with Jordan Mason in the game. I think he's just going to be the lead back for the rest of the season, and this schedule isn't too bad for Aaron Jones. He has Chicago in week 11, which should be easy, Washington in week 14, Dallas week 15, and the Giants in week 16. All a really nice setup for Aaron Jones, who had a good game last week at 15.9 PPR points, but not such a blow-up game that he's unattainable. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson as well. Actually, I'm going to do this on the fly, where I put Aaron Jones' screenshot in here as well, because as much as I like Justin Jefferson, we'll talk about him in a second, it's really like, even in the overall part of this section of the video, I would just list Vikings. Like, if you're in a super flex and you want to buy J.J. McCarthy, I will say not Hawkinson. I would really just say J.J. McCarthy, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. Those are probably the 4, but mainly Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson. If you can get them on relatively cheap deals, right? With Aaron Jones, he's going to be the lead back for what I believe is still going to be a team that's going to fight for the playoffs. I think they only have like an 8 to 10% chance to make the playoffs here, but Kevin O'Connell usually scores points. They usually make things competitive. And when we look at, especially for wide receivers the rest of the way, and just kind of for this entire team, when we look at the Mike Clay strength of schedule, the Vikings have the 2nd easiest quarterback schedule rest of season, the 12th easiest for running backs, the 2nd easiest for wide receivers, and the 5th easiest for tight ends. So that is all really strong. I have to imagine that a bounce back is going to happen here somewhat soon. And these defenses, in terms of EPA per play, is 21st for Chicago, 14th for Green Bay, which is pretty shocking. Green Bay's kind of fallen off as a defense here. 5th for Seattle, which is good. But then the 30th ranked defense for Washington, 31st for Dallas, 29th for the Giants, and then the 10th for Detroit. But that can always be a shootout in a dome against Detroit, which is a really nice setup. Now, Jefferson, is not really much to say besides him being Justin Jefferson. He's still getting targets. He's still Justin Jefferson. I have to assume that he's going to turn it on at some point, but there's a chance that he doesn't. So if you don't want to buy Jefferson for that reason, I wouldn't blame you. But when we're talking about like a true buy low, I do think Justin Jefferson represents that opportunity. Now, let's see. Let's actually check out Aaron Jones first, because for me, Aaron Jones is the best buy of all of the Vikings here. Tell me we can get him for cheap. T. Higgins for Tet and Aaron Jones, I would do that. I would do that. I love T. Higgins, but if I needed a running back, that seems fine to me. Dart for Aaron Jones, easily. Ricky, they're saying that this is close. I'm sending Ricky Pearsall for Aaron Jones in a heartbeat. Jacoby Myers and DeAndre Swift, probably not. I think I would have Swift ahead of Jones. Sutton for Aaron Jones, easily. If Sutton's not going in my lineup every week, easily. I think Garrett Wilson's hurt, so I don't really expect Garrett Wilson to come back. So I would do this. Lad McConkey for Jauan Jennings and Aaron Jones. Probably not. Probably not. Diggs for Aaron Jones, yeah. Metcalf for Aaron Jones, yeah. Like these are just, to me, these are all even swaps. It just comes down to if you need a running back or a wide receiver. So Aaron Jones is cheap. You can get Aaron Jones for very cheap. Let's see what Jefferson goes for. I think this one, I don't know if I'm going to like these as much. I'll be honest. I don't know if I'm going to be as stoked about the Jefferson ones. Or maybe not. Maybe not. Kyron in a plus for Jefferson, sure. Ibuka for Jefferson, I would. Ibuka and Chase Brown for Jefferson, no thanks. These are all even swaps. Yeah, maybe you can't get Jefferson for that cheap. I mean, I would do David Montgomery and Devontae. I don't know if that's on the table, but if somebody needs a running back, I don't hate doing that. I don't think any of these straight swaps of wide receivers for wide receivers is going to work, but Bucky and Tet would work. I think probably a better receiver than Tet, but if you need points and you want to upgrade your receiver and you just want to kind of throw Bucky at the problem, I don't hate that idea either. JSN, wow. JSN for Justin Jefferson and Derrick Henry. Man, that is a blockbuster that is so close. And this is what I'll say. In this format where it's a start 8, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, I got no depth. I got no running backs to work with. I would. I'm not telling you to sell JSN because that's somebody that I don't think you should sell no matter what, but I mean, if you have JSN, I doubt you're struggling, but if you are struggling or you just lost a running back, I don't hate it. But that's as far as I'll go. That's as far down as I'll go on the Jefferson train. Now, let's talk about our next buy candidate. This one's going to be quick because I don't really like talking about quarterbacks that much, but if you want an elite quarterback, this is like the true luxury. You know, if you have a bye week locked up and you think you can take a bench piece and upgrade your quarterback spot, or maybe you were just like streaming somebody, or you've been rocking with some kind of, combo of like Sam Darnold and Jared Goff, why not upgrade that piece, especially if you're in like a 10-teamer or a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league where the starting lineups are really shallow? I think Jalen Hurts is actually a really solid buy. He had a bye week and then a 12-point dud. I think everyone's kind of out on the Eagles right now again, where A.J. Brown's talking to the press. I think Jalen Hurts, and honestly to a lesser extent A.J. Brown too, where the vibes are so bad. I think you just buy these kind of like, I was going to say blue blood, or that's like a college term, but like that's what the Eagles have been over the last 3 or 4 years. I think they are going to figure it out here. Jalen Hurts gets Detroit this week, then Dallas, then Chicago. Those teams are allowing the 11th, 1st, and 3rd most points to opposing quarterbacks. He has the 7th easiest schedule rest of season according to ESPN, and he is the perfect buy low to get an elite quarterback for the cheap. Like he has to be the cheapest among, Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen at this point. And I wouldn't be shocked if from week 11 through week 17, he outscored half of those names. Like that's absolutely in his range of outcomes. And again, I think that you can get him for cheap because he hasn't been great to this point. Like he's probably getting outscored by Drake May, maybe even Matthew Stafford, but I do think down the stretch he can turn it up here. Like if Sutton's on my bench and I'm not using him, you can send Sutton for him. Daniel Jones and Kenneth Walker, yeah. Like if you wanted to, like if you've been starting Daniel Jones all year and you kind of want to downgrade to there, that sounds fine to me. I like this, like these like Daniel Jones and Caleb Williams deals where you offer somebody else. Like let's say you see, especially this Kenneth Walker one, like you see the guy with Jalen Hurts, his running backs suck. If you can offer him a running back plus your quarterback for Jalen Hurts, I really like that. Like if Kenneth Walker's not cracking your lineup, but maybe somebody better, like could that be like Daniel Jones and DeAndre Swift for Jalen Hurts? I wouldn't hate that. See, like this is beautiful. These are all beautiful. Like Kamani Vidal and Baker to go get Hurts. Just like here's a running back. Whether it's Rashad White or Kamani Vidal. Here's somebody you can use, and then I'll take Jalen Hurts in return. So those are the kind of deals I'd be looking to do, and then I'll also unofficially put A.J. Brown in here. You guys know, I mean, I'll ride A.J. Brown to the death. I know it's been a really tough go this season, but you have to buy back in personally. Like Kamani Vidal, DJ Moore, like these prices are too good. Tet and a QJ, sure. Kamani Vidal and Kelsey, sure. If somebody wants to take on the risk of Amari and Hampton, you can't afford to wait for him to come back, sure. So you can get A.J. Brown for really cheap. I know there's whispers of like, oh, well, Devontae Smith is just flat out better, this and that. I think we're going to see A.J. Brown get the squeaky wheel treatment. and then potentially really turn it up here. Again, he gets Detroit, Dallas, then Chicago over his next 3 games. But if you need wide receiver help for cheaper than A.J. Brown, I have my last 2 trade targets here are 2 really cheap wide receivers. I think, first of all, you can buy Jauan Jennings cheap. Now, yes, Jauan Jennings has actually been pretty solid as of late, so it's not like you're buying him low, but I think you're buying him low for this reason. Ricky Pearsall now is going to be healthy and good to go this week, and I think that is going to be kind of like the Andy with his toys meme, where now everyone's like, oh, well, Jauan Jennings, I can't throw him in my lineup. I don't think that's true. Jauan Jennings right now is the wide receiver 23 by consensus rankings for week 11, which aren't gospel, but I do look at them of just like, if you were to poll all of the experts out there who submit rankings every week, he's a top 24 option for week 11. That's a really strong flex option this week for Jauan Jennings. Brock Purdy's healthy and back in the mix. And again, I know Pearsall's back in the mix, but as this kind of tweet shows, that hasn't been that terrible for Jauan Jennings. They've played 12 games together. Pearsall has only out-targeted Jauan Jennings twice. Now, there's also a George Kittle stat in there. That doesn't really matter as much for me. So, yes, Jauan Jennings has had 14.1 PPR points in Week 9 and then 17 this past week. So, it's not quite a buy low because he's been scoring these past 2 weeks, but I do think the Ricky Pearsall news is enough to kind of lower his value and make him a very easy buy as a really nice flex option this week. He gets Arizona this week. Not the best schedule in the world, but I really do like buying low on this 49ers passing game. Again, you get Brock Purdy back. This is a team with an 84% chance to make the playoffs. They're going to turn it up down the stretch, and I just want pieces, right? Jauan Jennings being one of them, and their playoff schedule is super strong. They get Tennessee in Week 15, then Indianapolis, and then Chicago. These teams are allowing the 10th, 12th, and 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. If you want to say Indianapolis has Sauce Gardner now, you can say that, but Drake London also went absolutely nuts overseas against Sauce Gardner. So I really like Jauan Jennings. I have to assume that he's really cheap right now. Like, I have to assume that he's not, right? With Pearsall back, he's got to be pretty cheap, Jauan Jennings. Waddle for Aaron Jones and Jauan Jennings. No, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, like Kamani Vidal, like if I don't need Kamani Vidal's points at running back and I'm doing fine at running back, that seems like a fine kind of like cash out option. Pickens for Sutton and Jennings, no. Pollard for Jennings easily. Rashid Shaheed for Jennings easily, yeah. Rachaad White, like if you want to cash out of your Kamani Vidal or Rachaad White for Jauan Jennings, I don't hate that idea. Charbonnet is not cracking your lineup, and Jauan Jennings would go in your flex option or flex spot immediately. I would. Tyjae Spears another one, yeah. So I mean, you can get him for pretty much free, and somebody that I think is even cheaper that actually said I would sell for Jauan Jennings because I have Jauan Jennings over Rashid Shaheed, but I still think Rashid Shaheed is a great sneaky buy. He gets traded to Seattle, and he has an immediate dud. I think there's definitely some sentiment of like there's really no room in this offense besides for JSN in the passing game, and I do understand that idea, but I like buying low because he only ran 62% of the routes. They absolutely killed the Cardinals last week, the Seattle Seahawks. And I think once Shaheed gets up to speed in this offense, I really like his fit. Last year, yes, they started super strong early, but then Derek Carr got hurt, and the rest of the year was an absolute shit show for the Saints. And still, Shaheed had 13.3 points per game. Now, of course, he got hurt for a certain stretch, but 13.3 points per game with Kubiak last year versus just 10.8 this year. I think now you go to Seattle, where Kubiak has Sam Darnold and this offense is humming. I think you're going to get a lot of really big spike weeks from Shaheed. Like, I think that we are probably due for like 3 20-plus PPR point games from Shaheed. Actually, I'll chill on that. I'll probably set the line at like 1.5 20-plus point games for the rest of the season for Shaheed. But that's something that could win your week, right? If you just put him in your flex spot, somebody's on bye, and he's just the perfect guy to come in and give you a massive, massive boost where you can just get him for super cheap. Just put him on the back end of a deal, right? Like if you have a 1-for-1 swap, but you think that their side's a little bit juicier, be like, all right, just sneak a little Shaheed in there in the end of that. It's not like it should cost a ton. I just really like the fit with Shaheed of this kind of like super heavy personnel where they're going to run 2 receivers on the outside. It's going to be Shaheed, it's going to be JSN, and there's going to be shot plays deep for Shaheed off of play action with Kubiak, with Sam Darnold. And once that starts to click, I think that that's going to be really strong. Like I could see him being kind of a similar, I wouldn't say league winner, but kind of riser to what Alec Pierce has been over the last 4 weeks. Over the last 4 weeks, Alec Pierce has been amazing. I think we could see Shaheed from like weeks 14 through 17 have that similar rise where it's like every week he's picking up 15 plus PPR points and it's just being an absolute stud. Now, in terms of what you have to pay to get Shaheed, it can't be that much. It just can't be. It simply cannot be that expensive to get Rashid Shaheed. Like, I'm thinking, come on. Like, can you buy him for waiver wire fab dollars off of somebody else? Yeah, like Jordan Mason, sure. I'm still taking Shaheed over Troy Franklin. I'm taking Shaheed. I mean, Slayton got banged up today. I like Algier, but if he's not cracking your lineup and you think Shaheed can actually go in your flex spot, I like that as well. I mean, Amari DiMercado, that's crazy. I don't hate the Rachaad White stuff either, but you have to be really certain that you're not going to play Rachaad White and also be really certain that if Bucky Irving never plays another snap, that you'd be comfortable with making that deal. Because that is certainly, I know that he's practicing this week and like it's on the table that he could play next week, but it is on the table that Bucky Irving does not play until the NFL playoffs. Not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that's the downside risk of selling Bucky Irving that you have to be okay with. But that is going to do it for us today. That is my 7. Well, we had some extras too, right? We had Aaron Jones added. We had A.J. Brown added. So 7 for the title, but it's really more like 9 to 10 to 11 players you can go out there and trade for. Let me know in the comments when your trade deadline is. I might run this back next week. Or this might be it. This might be the last trade video of the season. Let me know if your trade deadline isn't up yet until next week. Maybe we'll run this back one last time. I will say as well, only 3 videos this week because I am working on a Dynasty rankings update for the Patreon. So if you want these rest of season rankings, if you want my Dynasty rankings update this weekend, that can all be found patreon.com/Ron Stewart in the description and the comment section down below. But if you're already signed up or you can't support there, just leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, oh.